Hey guys, I am Nishant and welcome to Cybernetico. So today we will build a REST API using MongoDB, Express and Node.js. So let's start. So first thing to do is we have to initialize our project. So just say npm init, enter. So let's add the package name, enter this one, version description a simple REST API, enter entry point index test. Just keep clicking enter or pressing enter. Add the author name of Nishant or your name. License, okay. These are okay, so click yes or press yes. So now we have a file called package.json here. So we need to install a few dependencies here. So let's install them. First, we will be using express.js for our API routes. Express. Then we have to use Mongoose for our MongoDB client. Then we have to use NodeMon to restart our server every time we save automatically. So install all these three things here, enter. Meanwhile, create a file called index.js. Let's add the packages here. So we can just say const express equal to express. Second thing to add is const, let's say mongoose. We can say, okay, wait, we have to add require here as well. We don't have to use this like this. So we will just say require, let's say express. Here in the second thing, second const of mongoose, we can say require. Let's add a package of mongoose. Fine. So now we can just say, let's say const app. So this will be the app we will use for routing and everything else, for routing our different endpoints. So now we can use using this app. So we can just say app dot listen the port of 3000 or anything you want. You can also make it 4000, 5000, anything you want. Then a callback, and here we can just console dot log something. So let's say server started at, let's say, this port number. So to add the port number, we have to add 3000 here and just make this as string, sorry, as string literals. So if we now run this index.js script, we will see this data called, message called server started at 3000 in the console here. So now we have to start our app. So let's configure the package or JSON. So we can just say start, and this will be NodeMon. So we will use NodeMon to refresh our package every time it saves or every time we save it. NodeMon, the index file, index.js. Save. Now let's start the app. Simply type npm followed by the start command. Start. Enter. So you see we are getting this message called in the console that server started at 3000 here. If we make it to 4000, it will be 4000. And we don't have to restart it. It's automatically get restarted. So now it's running our server. Now let's configure the MongoDB or Mongoose package. So the first thing to do here is we have to go to this website called MongoDB, and let's create one file here called .env, and here we will paste a string that will be get from the MongoDB Atlas website. So this is the username and the password, and the last one is the collection. So if we start with here, we can sign in. Okay, we'll sign in. Let me see. Let me go to MongoDB website. So MongoDB databases. So save this here and create one database here. Create it, and it will return you these things here. So after creation, we have to just get to connect here. So click connect your application with the native servers or native drivers. So you see it's returning us back this data. So we have to put it inside and add the password here and the, what is it, that my database name here. So our database name is called this one. So we can change it, but I guess not because it's using this database. So it will not work properly. So leave it at that. So now we have to bring this env file into this index.js. So we can just say const, let's say MongoDB or data equal to, let's say process dot env dot this database URL name here. So let's try to console it now. So console dot log this Mongo data. So it's undefined. It's undefined because we are not getting the data properly. So we have to use a package called .env. So just do npm i.env, this package. So to use it, we can just say how to use .env package. I am forgetting. So where is it? Where is it? So let's search here .env npm. So let's wait 1 sec. So it's installed. Yes, to use this, we have to use this require keyword. Require .env.config. Then we can just console.log this. So try this. Let's move it at the top first. Then save. Now you see we are getting the data here in our console. So now we can use this MongoDB string here in this env file to connect to our MongoDB database. So let's do it. So we have to use a thing here called, we can just say mongoose dot connection. It takes a parameter that we had added previously, Mongo data. That's it. Then we have to create one DB instance, and we can just say mongoose dot connect simply, then save it. So we have an error. Okay, this should be connect. So make it connect, and this should be connection. Then save. Okay, now it looks fine. So now we have to connect. So to connect, we can just say DB this database, or just make it database to make it more readable. Database. So database dot on. So if it is on, it means it is now running. So it takes an error first parameter, and second param will be the error itself. So error, and we can console this in our console. Fine. If we have an error, any error while connecting to database, so I will show you later what is it. Then if it connects successfully, we can just throw database dot once to run it only one. So make this as what should be this one, as it should be, let's say connected, and this should be another thing that says console.log. Let's make this database connected, then save, and momentarily we will get this message called database connected here you see in the terminal. So what is the scenario which will, when we will get an error? So if we remove, or we can, if we just modify anything inside this string that is not here in this database, we will get an error in connection. So just remove anything, any random string, and then save it, and save it here as well, because this is the main file. And we will see this message called database cannot, what is it? Let me zoom in this terminal. So app crashed waiting for the file to change. So the error is Mongo connection is not a function because we don't have the proper string here. So revert it back and save it here as well in our terminal. Now it will return us back this database connected string of message here. Fine. So this is done. We also want to accept JSON format when we send or receive data for our API calls. We can just say app.use, just say, okay, express.json format. Then save. Now we can use JSON format inside our app here. Save it now. So it will be connected. Fine. Now let's create one file that will define our endpoints. So create a folder here first. So make this as routes, and here a file called routes.js. So let's import the file here into our, what is it, index file, the main file. So we can just say const, let's say routes equals to routes, wait, sorry, we have to use require keyword to import it. So require, wait, one step back into the routes folder and then a file. Now we have to just do something like app, wait, app.use this. Let's add the base endpoint should be API. So all our endpoints will start from the address of /API. Then we have to add this file here. So we have to use this routes. So the contents of this file here is being transferred to this routes constant, and then we are just calling this. So we will get an error because we don't have anything inside, any middleware. So let's create it. So we can just say const express equals to require express. So we have imported express keyword for express package here. Then we have to use the router from the express package. So just say const router equals to express, and inside we have a router. So R should be capital, not small. Then we have to export this. So we can just say module dot exports equals to router. Now if we save this, it will work perfectly. Save. So started and connected. So it's now working perfectly. So now we have to create our endpoints exactly like we want. So we will use this router constant. So let's create one get API first. So first to do, we will just say router dot get method. So we'll have two get methods to get using an ID and getting all the data. So let's add the endpoint. So this should be get all. Fine. Then we have to add the callback, which will take two parameters called request, fine, and response. So that's how I have learned all this. So we can just do console.log res.send yes. So let's print something in the console. So we don't have any data here. So I have to print some random text. So let's say getting all the data. Then save it. So how do we test this? So we have to open Postman first. So let me open Postman here. So I have a Postman running side by side with the VS Code. So let me just close all these things, terminal and the side panel. Now we can see perfectly the code and the Postman. So to get this, to call this API of get all, we can just add this one. So local host, let's add the port number 4000 that will come from here, this port number. Then we have to add this /API, the base endpoint. So add it here /API. Then then we have to get all the things. So we can just add this text. Sorry, this what is it? This following endpoint called get all to get all the data. But where send button? So let me just send it. Click send, and we are getting this text here of getting all the data here. You see that is coming from here. So the get is now working, the first get API. So let's comment the name. So get all API. Make the get capital as well. So first we have the get API. So let's add the others as well. So now we have to just say get by ID. Okay. So we will have to use get by ID API. Similarly, we will have more than we should have post API. We will have put API, put API. We will have delete API. So our 4 APIs is here. So we will have get, post, put, and delete. So these are the APIs that we'll be creating in this later videos here, in this same video, but in the later timelines. So let's create them. So we have the base code here. So just copy this and repeat it all over. This one is the base code. We will be using the same code all over, but some things will be different. So here this get should be not get, this should be post. Then this should be put, not purge, put, fine. Then we have this one as delete. So we don't need this routes, so we have to change them. So this should be not get all, this should be get one. This should be post, this should be put, and this should be delete. So if we try to see or just call another API, so let's say this put here, let's change the method to put and then just send this. So let's change some data here. So let's make it put method, save. And now if we send this, we should get this message called put method here. So let's add it here as well. This should be delete method. If we call this delete /delete and make this method to delete in this left side panel, if we send, we will get this text called delete method. Fine, so it's now working. We can do the same for post. So we can send the post message. This should be post, save, make it post, and this one as post as well, send, post method. So now in this get one, let's add the ID. So how to get the ID params? We can just do one, what it is called, colon, then the ID. Fine. So we have to pass the ID in the query params. So we can just do, we have the ID. So now let's try to console this ID. So we are getting the request here, we're not sending anything. So we can just say request dot send and let's print the ID. So we can just say request dot params dot ID. So I think this is the one. So if we now just send this, okay, wait, we have something wrong here. I think this should be not request, this should be res. So we will send data here. So this should be here, but the ID should be here. And in the request, we will get the ID. So what is the endpoint? So it should be get one, API get one. Let's add some ID. So let's say 1 or 1000. We can add one string variable here as well. So make this and just say ID colon this ID. So if we now send this here, let's see what we get. Send. You see, we're getting this ID as 1000 here. So it now works fine. We can send here our ID. So now let's try the post method. So let's post some data in this MongoDB database. So for the post method, let me show you one thing. So if we change it to post, and in the post we have to send some data that will be posted inside the database. So let me show you this. If we change it to JSON, so we don't need this. What is this? So change it to, what is it? Send. Wait, what is this one? I guess we have to just change the font size first. So let me change it. Settings, font size should be, let's make it 20. Okay, it's now fine. So here is our body, and we have to send data inside our body. To send, change it to JSON. Fine, we have set it, and we will send as an object. So first thing will be the name. We will send name. So name should be our name. So let's make it an string Nishant. Second thing we will send is called our age. Wait. So let's say age using a comma. Then in a string we can send age as number. Okay, we have to add the colon here. Fine. So in this format we will send the name and age. So we have to create a model for this, which will contain our name and age values. So create one folder here called models. Then here we will create a file called models.js. So let's create our model here. So the first thing to create our model here is we have to import the mongoose package. So const mongoose equals to require this mongoose package like this. So next thing we have to do is we have to create our schema. So we can just say const data schema. Fine, name is great. Schema not scheme equals to, we can just say new mongoose.schema. So we will use the schema keyword here, this one, new mongo schema. Fine, then we have to add the models here. So the first thing we have added inside this postman is called the name. So let's add the name. So we can just add the name, and in this name we have to use two keywords. First is require. This should be true initially because we have to send this. This is a validation rule, so this should be true. The second thing to have to add here is, it is called what is it called, type. So let's add the type here. So it should be number. So the name should be number. Sorry, the name should be not number. This should be string. So type string here. Fine. So now what we have to do is add the second object here of age. Age. So let's make this as same. Okay, what is happening? So required will be true and type will be not string, it will be number. Fine. Then the next thing we do here is we have to just let's export this model. So we can just say module, just like we did in the routes page. We can just say module exports, and here we will just use mongoose dot. We have to export the model, and then let's add the model name. So let's say data in capital letters, and then we have to add this schema. Save, hit here. Now our model is now done. So now we have to use this model inside our this routes file. Fine. And to input our model inside our file called, what is it, the routes.js, let's create a constant. So let's say model or capital model equals to require. So require. So this file called, what is it, one step back, two steps back, yes. So models folder, then the models file, not 00, then save it. So to post data, we can just add this model inside our power post method. So let's do it. So now let's write the post body here. So we have to create the instance first. So let's create data const equals to new model. That model we have imported from this models folder from here. Then we will just say our model. So first is the name. So we will get the name from request body. So request dot body dot name. Then we have the age. So we'll get the age from the same. So req request dot body dot, what is it, age. Then we have the data model created. I mean, then we have to use a try catch block. So if it is successful, we will call the try block, and if it fails, we will catch it using catch block. So if you're a programmer, you should know what is try catch. So if it is an error, we will catch it. So in this try block, let's save it. So just say const data to save equals to data dot save using this save keyword. So I guess this is it. So now in this catch block, okay, not in the catch block. So we have to send data here as well in the in this response. So we can just say, what should we say? We have to send data. So we can just say response dot send, sorry, not send, status. We will say status. So the code will be 200. 200 means success. You can also make it 201. Both are fine. Just don't make it 400 because 400 is for errors. So 200, then let's convert it to JSON format and we can just return our data to save in the body parameters. Not body parameters, what is it called? Okay, this body. Then if it is an error, we have to catch it. So we will just do the same. So just copy this, make it 400, not 200. And then we have to send the message, this error message. So we can just say message and error dot message. So this is it. Now let's try to send data or post data. So we have a name Nishan, then age 25. So let's just post and add the endpoint. So it's post. Now click send here. So we are getting this empty object. Okay. That's because we have to use async await. We have to use asynchronous programming. So make this as async function, async, because it's a promise. Then we have to await it. Await data save. Then try again. It will work. Send. Then you see it's sending. Okay. We are getting the name Nishan and the age of 25. This one is string and its number. So let's try to get some error in our console or in this body. So we will get error if we don't send a age, because both of these items are required. So remove the age here and just send it again. You see, okay, we don't need comma. That's an error here. So send again. See, we're getting this message called data validation failed, age path is required, or age path age is required. So we don't have age here and it's required. So bring it back. Let's try to send some other data. So let's say UDAY Uday, and this one 25 as well. So save it or send this. We are getting the second body name and age with an ID. So ID is unique for all the what is it, collections or data or objects. So we have done the post now. So now let's start to get all the data inside our postman. So in this get all body, I mean, let's define our get function to get all the data. So we have to create try catch block. So try will be called if we are successful, else we will call catch block with an error. So catch error it will take, and we can just do anything we want with that error. So we have to create one variable of constant. So constant, let's say data. So data we'll be getting here will be stored inside this data variable. So we can just say await, but first let's make it async function, just like before, async. Then I will set await. Await, let's add the model name. So model name is called model, and we can use the find method to get all data. So find. Then we have to send it back in the response body. So response or res dot json to convert it JSON format. Then we have just return data. But if we fail, we have to just call res status to send the status of 500. So send, not send, res dot status 500, and followed by we have to convert the message into JSON like this. So message will be this error from this catch block. So if it is successful, we will get data inside our postman, or else we will get some error. So let's try this. So if we save this and make it an get request and post as get all, I mean the method should be get all. If we send this, we are getting all the data that we sent previously. So it's all the data here, all the data, all the data. So fine. So we have all the data inside our post body, as you can see here. Fine. So the post, sorry, so get all is also done. So now let's work on this get by id get by id method. So it's very simple. So just copy this try catch block from this previous get all and paste it here. But instead of this find, we will use a method called find by id, and we have to pass the id where from here. So we can just say request dot params dot id. So previously, let me show you, we are consoling it or just sending the id. If we call it here, so let's call it, so get one, and but before, let's try to call this id. We will get the id, so let's comment it for now, because this id is for the first one called Nishan and age 25. So let's call this using get one, and then the id let's add. So let's add this id here, copy and paste, then click send. You see we're getting the id here in this request body, which is this request.params.id. So we have to use this id to get all the data. So just copy it again and paste it, but not find. This should be find by id method, and we will just pass this request.params.id. So now let's check, all the things will be same. If we add the id here, which is already added, we will get the data. So let me add it here, wait. So just send, click send. Okay, the thing is we have to use async await here, so make it as asynchronous as well. Save it and then click again, send. So you see we're getting the name of Nishant and age 25. So let me open up a new tab and call the API again to get all the data here. So this should be get all. So remove all this and add get all method here. Send it here. So we are getting all the data. So let's start to get data for Uday, the last one. So copy the ID from here and replace it here. Then click send. Here we are getting the name of Uday. See. So get by ID is also done. Now let's work on the put method and delete methods, the last method for our REST API. So in order to send data, we have to just use not put a patch method, patch, patch. So just make this a small patch and the endpoint as well. So it will accept an ID here. So just make it /:id. And in delete as well, because we will use the id to delete the specific field based on the id. So remove this res.send here. Then we have to write a script. So we will write it in a try catch block again. So if it is successful, we will call it in a try block. But if it fails, we will catch the error. So the error method will be similar. So just catch it like this. Then let's try the try block. So make this as async function just like the others. Then in the try, we just have to add the constant id. So id will be request.params.id. Then second thing we need is called the updated data. So we will just say const data to update equals to request.body. Fine. Third is the options, which is optional. So options will contain object which will tell us if we want the new data to show in the body or not. Updated data, I mean. So make it as true. Fine, true. So we have now three constants: id, data to update, and options. So we will use these three things to update data. So we will create a constant first to get the results after updating. I mean, so it will take an await. It will be an awaiter. Then we will use the model to update. So we will say model dot which we have a function called find by ID and update this, which takes a few parameters. First is called ID, second is called this data to update, and third is called options. So after this, we have to send the data in the response. So we can just say response dot send the result. Let me have some water first. 1 second. Then save the file. So now let's get one ID that we will use to update data. So we have copied this ID, add one new tab, and we will just say localhost 4000. Then we will use the get one endpoint, and to get one we will use this ID of this. So just click or send or press enter. So we are getting the name of Raju and age 25 here, 27 I mean. So we will update this Raju field. So just copy the whole endpoint and paste it here, but make this get one as patch because we have the patch method here in the endpoint. It's getting an ID. So now let's write the body. So in this raw, select JSON format. Then copy this object, make this to Ashish. So we won't have the Raju here. If we will have Ashish name here, age 21. Now simply click send. So we have error here which says cannot get API patch. So I guess what's the problem here? We have this problem. So if we check it again, send. Okay, it's not getting updated. So we are sending the result. We are getting the ID using patch. Okay, this should be not get. It should be patch. So click send. Now we are getting the updated data here called Ashish and H21. So now let's check or double check using getting this specific field. So send it, and you see the name is now Raju. It's now Ashish. And if we change it again to something else, say Nishant, it will be Nishant and H25. So just click send. Updated here, and let's check here. Press enter. See, it's now getting updated. That's fine. Now the last one is called delete by ID. So we will work on that here. So deleting is also simple. We just have to use this function called get by ID and delete. So model dot get by not get, find by ID and delete, and it will take a parameter called request dot params dot ID. Fine. So let's wrap it in a try catch block. So try if it is successful, or I will catch the error if it fails. So make this as an error. Fine. Then move this in the try block. Then if it is successful, we will send a message called rest.send using rest.send, and a message called, so we need to get the name of the name of that person that we're deleting. So we will just use string literals here, and we will say request dot body yes dot name is or has been deleted if it is successful, or else we will just repeat this error here. So put it here. So now let's try to delete some data. So let's delete this Raju, but first we have to get data here. So copy this ID of Raju, and I guess paste it here, then enter. Okay, wait. So we have to get all again to get the name here. So updated name here, Nishant. So in this we will have to create one more tab and just add a git delete API. So this should be delete. Then we have to do something like, what do we have to do? We are adding the ID and make this to delete. So now if we press enter, okay, undefined has been deleted. It means we are not getting the name properly. So we can just use the ID here, because I think the name has been deleted, so it's not getting here properly. So if we again call this API with the same ID, we will get an error here. So you see, it has been deleted. And if we call it again, okay, fine. So if we try to call this now, we will get an error, but we are not getting an error. Fine. So if we add the same ID here, okay, get one. Wait, it's not getting deleted. So I guess, what's the problem? We are using this find by ID and delete. If we get this all data, okay, it's not getting deleted. So I guess the problem is we have to use async await here as well. Yes, async await model and this. So try again deleting this. Yes, deleted. Now if we call the API again using get this one field, we will get the null because we don't have this field here, this data here for this ID. See, so we have done all the four operations, which are create, get, post, get, patch and delete, as well as one more which is called get by ID. So that's how we create a REST API in in Node.js and Express and using MongoDB. If we refresh the data here, we won't get the previous data that we deleted here. So let's try to delete all the data. So we will just use the data and enter. So deleted. And if we get this, if we delete one more, deleted. And if we get here, so that's how you can clear all the data here to make it an empty array. So let's try to delete this Uday field at the last. One last deletion. So enter, deleted. And if we just paste the Uday ID here, we will get null because we don't have the ID here. So if we refresh this using get all, we won't see the Udaya field here. So I guess we are now done. So please like this video and subscribe to my channel for more awesome videos like this one. So now I'm logging out. Bye bye.